Okay, great. We're on here now.
Okay,
Hi
great.
everyone. This is Follow Hangouts. With me here is Chuka Ofili.
Hey.
Did I pronounce that well?
Yes, it's Chuka
Did
Ofili.
I? Ofili. Okay. And
Ofili.
Femi Taiwo. What?
Yes.
Okay. They are veterans, in technology experts, and well, I'm not best at talking, but yeah, they're definitely the best people I've met and worked with in Nigeria. And I look forward to working with you again, Chuka. Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
time will
yeah,
come.
so the whole purpose of this hangouts today is to just go over your experiences, your achievements. I know you've been at this for over 12 years, including Femi Taiwo, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Actually, longer,
yeah,
but fine. Let's go.
yeah, longer. I can imagine. I can imagine. Maybe before I even dreamt, I would even go into go into
Ah,
technology.
not that bad. I'm not. I'm not
No,
saying
I
ten.
just so the whole idea is to learn from your experience, um, go over some of the things you've done, how you got to where you are, what you do now, stuff around that, and then pretty much what what you have to say to the audience in terms of helping them grow and get into the next stage, whatever kind of career they're in or what they're doing. So yeah, I think we should start with Chuka. Can you like just tell us about what you do now? The roles you play, your activities and things like that.
Okay, great. So I co-founded a company called Delivery Science about 2 3 years ago. Um, my role at the company is software architect. Well, the titles don't matter, right? Some people will say it's chief enterprise architect, but software architecture, high level architecture. That's primarily what I do. And basically, what my my personal involvement in day to day office is to make sure that code quality is kept at a premium level. To
Okay.
make sure that infrastructure operational setup is at a premium level. Make sure we use the right tools. We make sure that everything interconnects properly. We use service-oriented architecture at the office. So make sure that all the moving parts that interact with the system or whatever product it is that we're building at a point in time is at premium level.
Interesting.
I also work hand in hand with the developers. I mean, when we started early, the colleague used to be our CTO, Ezra, but he left and started Paystack. He used to, more deal with the developers on a day to day, while I and him would, work high level to make sure that what the developers are doing are conforming with whatever standards it is that I've depicted or set.
Yeah.
Um, I think, I mean, after he left, obviously I had to take on that role as well. So technically, I'm in quote and unquote the CTO as well.
Right. Right.
So I taking on his role, and right now, I mean, I can say we just have about 3 or 4, then maybe like 3 developers, and then maybe like 4 or 5 interns who were training, and
Right.
I don't use the word training. Let's just say making become better developers.
Got
Imparting
you.
knowledge, imparting skills, sharpening what they know already, and showing them how we do things at our organization.
Yeah.
Um, the product itself is it's called Field Insights,
Okay.
and what we do is essentially help large organizations to monitor their people and their field activities.
Mm.
To get insights from their field activities. So it cuts across 4 major indexes, which is data, information,
Yeah.
sales data, uh, order to cash, payments, and uh, product proof of delivery. Those are the 4 major tangents
Interesting.
that we work on, and it's
So
been an
a lot
experience.
of stuff around data.
Yes, a lot of stuff around data.
Yeah.
In simple terms, what our product does is gather data, you know, analyze and compute it in the cloud, and then present it to management. That's essentially what we do in simple terms. No
Interesting.
matter how form, no matter what form it takes, and so on and so forth. I work closely with Larry Odotu. He's my co-founder as well. He acts as the CEO, and he is the front of the company, manages and interacts with the clients or interfaces with the clients, and head sales as well. He and Ore Omolaja. So that's all. Oh, I forgot one more person. Tony. Tony is head of product. She makes sure the data science bit of things is done, properly. So that's us in a nutshell. Yeah.
Awesome, interesting. Hey Femi, I know you're a Google developer expert and super involved in GDG runs. So you've been in this space of working with a lot of developers. So I'm sure maybe a lot of our viewers even know you already. So I know you work with a lot of developers, try to talk about different products and educate people. But other than that, what else do you do? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Yomi. After hearing Chuka talk about so many things, what am I going to talk about? Okay, so I co-founded a company called Inits
Yeah.
with my partner and wife, Runke. We've run it for about 7 years, and we were and still are focused on creating software solutions for anybody who walks in through the door. But we're mostly focused on enterprise. And in the 7 years that we've been around, we've done quite a number of interesting projects. One of which is if you own a property in Lagos State or your dad owns a property in Lagos State, you pay something called the land use charge.
Sorry?
You pay something called the land use charge.
Yes.
Yes.
It's some property tax that Lagos State charges every single property in the state every single year. So we have a system in place that Lagos State uses for that.
Femi Taiwo.
So I think that's like one of our almost projects. The next one would be if you register as a voter here in Nigeria in the last 6-7 years, or you're registering right now, you're using our system.
Sorry, if you register what?
As a voter.
Total.
Voter.
Elections. Okay. Got you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Voter. Okay.
You registered as a voter in 2011 or 2015, or right now, like it started like 2 days ago.
Wow.
It's been done with our system, so we sort of manage that process right now.
That's super huge.
Well, in my company, I am the CEO, play a very similar role to Chuka's role in delivery science. I work with a lot of developers, and I work with a lot of developers outside the company, which is what you've mentioned that you may know me by as a Google developer expert or a GDG organizer for Lagos.
Interesting.
And that's like somewhere what I do.
Interesting. So, you talked about both of you work with a lot of developers. I'm curious, what's been your experience generally in the technology space working with a lot of developers? A lot of people have opinions in terms of the quality of the developers, the commitment of the developers. What are your observations? It can be wide, it can be anything that comes to your mind. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are in terms of the quality of developers, because I'm also sure you've worked with a lot of developers, outside the country too. Who wants to go first? Femi.
Okay, fantastic. Developers are human beings. I'm a developer, and we come in all shapes and sizes, right? So, I've worked and still work with many amazing developers in terms of how they think, how they process information, their dedication to work, commitment towards the goal, how much thought they give to the project or to the task at hand before writing that first line of code, or how quickly they are able to accept criticism, contributions, suggestions, or curved balls, right?
Okay.
So I've worked with all sorts. And I think majority of the guys I've worked with are fantastic in terms of all of those things I just mentioned.
Yeah.
The other part is ability to learn,
Mm.
which sometimes one of the things that I look into when I'm trying to increase the team or improve the team, upgrade the team, as you may call it, right? So I'm
Yeah.
trying to expand. I look for ability to learn. How well has he learned even the things that he currently does or she does? How well do they really understand the basics, the foundation? What's the reason behind, or what's the thought process behind this particular thing?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's been like my thought around developers generally when I'm like talking to them or working with them or
Yeah. So
conversation.
I guess these are like the qualities or like the things you look for in for you to be able to judge whether this person is, you know, the good or the bad, right?
Yes.
And
There's no bad is not really the appropriate word, but
okay,
um, right fit.
right fit. Okay, got you.
Mm.
But speaking of right fit, I feel this is also what people would consider as right fit. So maybe good bad is still it.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, I'm saying like the qualities you mentioned. I feel like this
Mhm.
is also what other people will consider as, what they would be looking for in developers. So maybe it's okay to generalize and say
Mm.
maybe those are the qualities that determine a good developer or not.
Mm. Well,
Well, so,
okay.
so
Go
let
on,
us
tell me.
add on to that. So the reason I use the word right fit is so half of the time um, projects evolve as they are being developed, right? And based on
Okay.
feedback, based on the current state of, for example, the application that's being developed, right? So things will happen like, oh, the client says, no, we need to add one more process here, or you know what? I know we said this before, but based on this, this is what we now need to do, right?
Okay.
Are things as important as your reaction to the client, must be professional. Um, so it's not. Some other cases, it's like these are traits.
Got
So
you.
bad and good. I'm still trying to avoid that bad or good thing. They're actually traits.
Okay. Okay. So Chuka, what do you think?
Okay. I mean, to build on what Femi has said,
Yeah.
um, there's there are a lot of factors that would affect. Um, I don't want to use the word employability, okay,
Okay.
but I would say instead there are a lot of factors that affect whether someone um, is a good fit for working with a company or a group of people or a person. Now,
Yeah.
personally, the first thing that I always look forward to, or make sure, try to find out if the person has, or the candidate has, is that the person has the ability to learn.
Okay.
That is one,
Okay.
right? The person is uh, let me not use the word humble, but calm enough to take criticism.
Okay.
Because I think as developers we're constantly growing, and the only way we get better is when someone criticizes us. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes
If
sense to me.
yeah, I see criticism as an opportunity to learn rather than someone trying to knock you down. And I do understand that sometimes the people who you work with who probably don't even understand the full context, understand the full scope, or probably even not as technically adept as you are. Um, but still, there's usually always nuggets in all the sand that can be, nuggets of gold in all the sand that can be thrown out. There is nobody who doesn't. There's nobody that has a stupid point. There is a reason behind what everybody is saying, especially in the context in which we're speaking. So the first two things I always try to find is, does the person have the ability to, irrespective of whatever skill set you have, you know, the personality traits matter. Are you able to learn? That's number one. And are you able to receive criticism without feeling demoralized or offended? And these things are not easy to come by, especially when you're younger. It's as you get older that you then realize, okay, usually most people are not out to get you. They're just saying, okay, this product or this issue or this feature could be better this way or that way or that way. And those are the two key traits. Before I now figure out, oh, okay, what languages or what skill sets do you possess, or can you do DevOps or blah blah blah. All those are secondary to the primary issue at large for me. Because the truth is, like Femi rightly pointed out, products, projects, irrespective of which of the facets you're coming from, they evolve over time.
Yeah.
Right? And just the same way as you get feedback from your users, because the truth is your users are the ones who will make or break your product. They'll be the one to tell you that, oh, this product is better if it has XYZ, or it's better if A and Z does not exist. And that, I'm telling you, is how your product gets better and how it gets great, because the user is telling you how he wants it to be. Now, you've gotten that feedback from your user, right? But then you pass it down to the development team, or it goes through whichever channels it's supposed to go through, the project manager or quality assurance person. I don't know who, depending on your setup. And then you pass it down to the developer, and then the developer will think about all the X amount of hours he's put into building that feature out. And then someone now tells him, or take it out or change it. It should be this way. And he's done it. The developer has put it out there based on his own understanding of how it should be done.
Right.
But by and large, we learn as human beings that what our intent is to do initially might not always be how the user will get to use it.
Right.
So getting feedback, even if it's as granular as pull requests or code reviews, getting feedback is always a good way to increase your repertoire of knowledge and make yourself a better person. So if you're not able to get or accept criticism or suggested improvements, I know that there are better ways to suggest improvements, but that is a topic for another day. That has to do with people who actually the reviewers. But I'm saying, you as a developer, not all criticism is out to get you. Not all criticism. So if I find that that's something that you can easily get, you've got both good starts for me, because then moving forward, I know that number one, you can pick up new languages if you have to, because you have the ability to learn. I know that you have, I know that you can pivot, I know that you can pivot, like if the product has to pivot and then you have to change the way something is being developed and you have to pivot it to something new, even though you've put in 10 hours of work, but you know that the general idea is so that the product will be great and the product will be better, and you understand that fact. It's easy, because then even though you might feel a bit down just because someone said that what you did is not going to be used, or what you did is crap, in quote unquote. I don't know how whoever it is that's telling you, but the ultimate goal is the end result.
Got it.
Yeah, and developers who can see that are gold to me. Yes.
Yes. So in your career, I can imagine you guys have probably hired or worked with maybe hundreds of people, maybe even thousands.
Hundreds.
I don't know. I mean, it's a long time, but like off the top of your head, how often do you see these qualities in people?
Well, I'll be honest. I'd say about between 45 to 50% of the time.
Oh, that's a good number.
Is it?
It's a good number. In my opinion.
Well,
Femi, how does that?
What do you think?
Don't be conservative here.
This is in your own experience, or in your own experience, Femi.
Okay, so nowadays I'm only opportune to talk to more senior guys, so it's more hit than miss nowadays.
Okay.
I would need to ask maybe some of the people who work with me, because they get to interview the younger people more often than I do.
Okay.
Right. Every now and then, a young person shows up on my radar, and I go after him right away, like, "Hey, what's up? Let's talk." Or, "Hey, have you thought about this? What do you think about this?" That sort of thing. That also happens.
Okay.
For me, it's more hit than miss now.
Okay.
Before now, it was more miss than hit. As in, I've interviewed. I've interviewed maybe at the time I interviewed like 30 different developers, and only 2 people actually could make the cut.
Interesting.
And that's why you notice, as when Inits wants to hire, we don't even post it out there again. We don't. Because it's just as in the amounts of chaff we get,
Right,
right?
right,
Just
right,
way too much, right? I mean, it's a lot. It's a
right.
lot. So it points at the problem that we're trying to solve, but still, in many cases, when I want hands like right now, um, I don't have that luxury. I'm trying to help
Right.
people in a month or in 3 months. Yes.
Interesting. Now I'm really hoping I don't go through that. So I'm not sure if I told you when I initiated the conversation with you. Part of the first thoughts that came to mind when I felt this was a good topic to talk about before seeking other people's opinion was because I made my first attempt at recruiting and it was a mess. I think I had close to 30 people too. Eventually, I settled for one person that was still mediocre, but I could work with, and totally a mess. So it got me thinking, like, what exactly is the problem? I still can't answer that question today, but it got me thinking, what exactly is the problem? Is it that our people, are not willing to improve themselves? I don't know, but I just thought to bring you on here to learn from you and, you know, see
Okay.
what you think about this.
Yeah. Let me.
What is the problem? Why is this the situation? I know also back here, I'm currently in Canada right now. Back here, there's also a recruiting problem, but more often than not, I feel I've met good developers that knows what they are doing. But I don't know. What do you think is the problem?
Okay. Let me take a stab at that.
Yeah.
I think um, how we are educated, and I'm trying to answer the question high level.
Right.
I think how we are educated or how we gain the knowledge is plays a major factor,
Okay.
right? Um, I'm not trying to knock any university down or knock the government down or anything. I'm just going to be as real as I can.
Right.
We take most of the courses and the syllabuses, especially the federal schools, outside of the private school, who probably have slightly improved their curriculum. What is being taught isn't half the time is not relevant to today. It's not relevant in, there was a time, I'm sure there was a time in this country when you read economics and you graduated economics, a BSc in economics, and you would easily be hired by, a bank, or, I mean, if you read accounting, for example, or an accounting
Mm-hmm.
firm, but, how the world does things and how technology has moved and how technology is changing so rapidly, it's even difficult for the universities to keep up, with that pace. So, which leaves a hole, and that hole is now how we as individuals are trying to um, solve on our own by learning on our own using the
Are you talking
internet.
about the pattern of learning or the content?
I'm even talking. Let's start with the content. The content is one of the major issues.
Okay.
Now, if a young person who was formally and in a structured way taught how to
Okay.
do a certain thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let me use myself as an example. When I
Okay.
was in year one or year two, I got a small project to build a website. At the
Okay.
time, I didn't know or have PHP knowledge. Right now, PHP is probably one of the most popular languages in the world. I only knew HTML and CSS, but then along the line, while trying to do the project, based on the tasks and requirements that the person gave me to do, I then realized I realized that I needed a dynamic language to be able to do it. And I googled and stumbled on PHP, and eventually learned PHP to be able to solve my problem. But you see, I learned it haphazardly. I took a bunch of tutorials, took a bunch of online classes. Actually, not online classes. There were no online classes then, just a bunch of
Yeah.
tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I had a mentor who formed a relationship with online. Till today, I don't know who he is. I just know his name.
Okay.
And I reached out to him anytime I had problems, and he was able to get me past those problems. But you see,
Interesting.
that is not where my education ended. I then eventually now bought a book,
Okay. So
by
so so, so
O'Reilly. Yes.
this also boils down to individual effort.
Thank you. So if you know that you learned something, you learned something in a way to just get you in the door, to get
Yeah.
you, to build your simple Hello World apps, or even a small application that is not maybe even enterprise ready, or even something that is not even production ready, but something to just get your hands dirty.
Right.
Now, but getting the formal knowledge is important. Getting the formal knowledge from the people who authored it. It's either buying a manual or buying a book by the people who wrote it or people who are affiliated with the guys who wrote it. That way, you concretize your knowledge and you formalize it. And when you formalize it, you will find out that there's more quality. Now, this whole experience I just explained, we can't get it in a classroom right now because of the way it's being taught. Because ideally, if it was the teacher who taught you, you can ask the teacher and then the teacher can help you out. Because he will give you textbooks and he will give you books and say, go read this, go read that. Now, all the content and all the knowledge that we source from the internet. What I'm saying is, if you want to make yourself a bit better, outside of your, unstructured learning materials which you've picked up, why don't you find the structured ones, which always has either books, manuals, and so on and so forth. Almost everything that I have learned today that I learned on my own, if I've learned it in an unstructured manner, I eventually always try to find a structured way of learning it to solidify the base foundation of the knowledge that I have. Because the people who wrote it or the people who developed it, it doesn't even matter. It's not just even about it's not even just about programming. It could also be DevOps. It could be anything, even just anything you do in life generally. That's how I learn. So what the problem I've seen in Nigeria or in Lagos so far is most people have unstructured knowledge. You don't have it structured, which is why you now say, like you find out that okay, the person has a bit of talent, but the person isn't still just useful to you. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I get what you mean.
So that happens a lot of time. The person has a bit of talent. You know that person can write the syntax, but then structuring the code, some of this is not even just about how you can logically think through the problem. Because high level, you always have people that work with you to help you with that. But it's implementing it in a way that is coherent with the way the framework or the application or whatever it is that you're doing has been written to do. That is what I always see as a major problem. So it's not like we don't have developers who can't write hello world scripts or who can't write applications. It's when it now comes more structured, more stable, more advanced stuff. That's why we have a lacking. And it's because they lack, in my own opinion, it's because they lack that structured knowledge.
Femi, do you agree with that?
So I agree with Chuka's analysis.
Yeah. Can you be louder? It's hard to hear you good. Hello, Femi. Hello, Femi. Hey, Femi, you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's really low. Like we can't hear you clearly.
Okay. One moment. Is it better now?
Oh,
yes,
much better.
Okay, sorry. My hands free must have. Okay, so saying that, I agree with Chuka's analysis of the problem. So what I'm going to do is add on to that with what we try to do. So at every given point in time, there's a time in every company where you have high tide and low tides, or times of a lot projects to do, and then time. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, we're struggling to hear you again.
Hello, Femi. Femi, if you can hear, I think maybe your hands-free is the culprit. Femi.
Hey, Femi. Don't go, Femi. Yeah, we can hear you faintly, but not clearly.
I think his mic is even muted.
Yeah. Oh, really? Checking that out. No, his mic is not. But
he's back, but I can barely hear him.
Yeah. Okay. While he's working on that, so I also met, over time, I've met some people that have appeared enthusiastic and want to learn. They've done the first step, even outside school, learning maybe without the background of computing and things like that. They've taken the first few steps of learning and doing one or two things, and then they are looking for their first gig. But the reality is they haven't done much, to be in quotes employable, right? I've chatted with people like that. And what I usually just tell them is, pick up something, build a calculator, build a utility for yourself. For example, how I became, I got the opportunity, to start moving up was, I worked on a project. Okay, I went to like programming school, and then learned how to build a computer-based test.
Okay.
And I didn't just take it as a final project, while learning how to program or learning how to write Java. Like I built, I spent a lot of time on it, built it, tried to get my lecturers to use it, and then that created a whole lot of story for myself and a lot of learning around that, which is what I also tell people to learn. But I don't know, it could be that people are not. What I sense from people is maybe people don't have the opportunity, because if they don't do that, I don't feel anyone would really give them the opportunity, spend 100K, 200K, 300K, employ you, and then you're learning on the job like that. People expect some form of, baseline knowledge or experience. But like people like that reach out to you, what do you tell them?
Okay, so my own take is this. When people reach out, usually if they're doing, how I regard people like that, I call them, and in my books, at DS, we call them interns.
Okay.
All right. Which and interns can range from someone who's just totally green, all the way to someone who's a junior level developer going up to a senior level developer, right? Okay. But there's also other things attached to it, like is the person just doing NYSC or is the person doing CWES, right? If it's one of those two, then you're an intern. It's when you've graduated, then you now become, proper developer, even though you might be coding at that level. Now, there are exceptions to those rules, of course, but when people like that reach out to me or us, let me use the word us at DS.
Okay.
If we have space in the company, then we take them in. If we don't, what we do is, if it was a personal conversation, if it was a company conversation, then we say, we're not taking interns now, but this is here and here is what you can do to get yourself better. But if we don't, and it was a personal conversation, they reach out to me personally, the advice I give them is, I try to keep it simple. Here is what I think you should go and learn. Because based on my experience, this is what companies or people who want to hire are looking for. Go learn those. When you learn it, like you just said, build something with it. Because in the process of building something with it, you will learn, you will make mistakes, and you find out how to make mistakes. And then the general, way of life of a developer starts to be imbibed. Right. If they don't have the seriousness or the fortitude to go through and build something, that's one thing I usually always ask when I'm interviewing people. Doesn't matter whether you're an intern or full developer. The first thing one of the questions I always ask at the early stages: what have you built that is running online, or what have you built that is being used in production by another person? What have you built that somebody else is relying on it?
Is relying on it. That makes sense.
Yes, because then there are a lot of lessons you probably would have learned which someone cannot teach you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And to me, that's valuable. So, when I see that the person is green, or then I assess person's level. Okay, does the person have ability to understand syntax of this language and so on and so forth? So, if syntax is not a problem, then the next thing is trying to build a product.
That totally makes sense. So when you're recruiting, do you have a playbook of some sort, or when you chat with people, those qualities we talked about at the beginning, do you just are you able to conclude firsthand that this is the person you want, or what kind of stages or what kind of processes do you take the people? Both now we have two classes from our conversation: interns, people that need to experiment, get their hands dirty, get to the next level, and those that already have the experience. How do you separate these people? What interview process do you take them through? What's your playbook like in terms of get from identifying talent and then getting the person and
Okay. So our hiring process has changed. So there isn't one. So there's
also compare. Sorry, Chuka. Also compare this to what you found in other organizations.
Okay.
Yeah, the likes
Okay.
of Konga or things like that.
Yeah.
If you have any insights.
That's okay. Okay. So how we do it at Delivery Science? This is what we do currently. When we need to employ a technical person, usually before we get to technicality, we first pass them through senior developers before they
Right.
get to me, and myself and Larry. Or before, by the time you're sitting at my table, you probably already have gone through two people at least who have seen you and talked to you, and then try to assess the kind of person, the quality that you are. But if it's interns,
Yeah.
I mean, at this stage, I don't really need it interns, because usually if the person is green and off school or is doing CWES or is doing NYC, then to us, we're just trying to make better, train, and push out there. So they
Right.
don't need to meet me, because it's not like, okay, fine. If we now imbibe you, then we'll put you on a development learning track. Go and learn
Okay.
this, go and learn that, go and learn that. And if you have a bit of knowledge, then we try to polish your knowledge and then try and see if we can put you on a small bit of a project or product that's live.
Mhm.
Or we put you, if your technical skills are good, we just help guide and make sure you can work on a
That
project
makes
with.
sense. Okay.
Yeah. But for senior devs, senior teams, um, like I said, you go through senior devs first. They ask you a bunch of questions. In some cases, you might be tested. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? I don't know, because we leave it to their discretion. If we're going to hire a mobile developer now, get our senior mobile developer who is an Android and iOS person to
Okay.
interview them first. Then when they've
Yeah.
gone through him and the person says, okay, I think this person is okay, then they come to me, which is now when I now try to find out some of the points that I had earlier.
Okay. Okay.
Because at this point, it's not really about skill per se.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So in terms of the skills, is it I know some people use things like codility to check algorithm, skill
Mhm.
set. Um,
Mhm. What do I use?
what's the correlation? Yeah, do you do that? And also, um, you know, a lot of developers clearly, especially like in likes, people that interview with the likes of Google, everybody's of the opinion that what's the correlation between everyday software, web development task, and algorithm question. So do you also do that?
Okay,
And
no. No, yeah,
okay,
yeah. No, we don't do that. This is what we do.
okay,
The first thing we do is, well, I do. By the time you get to me, the first thing I do is I ask if you have anything in production or somebody else is, or something that you've even just developed that nobody else is using. If the answer is yes, I always like to see your
right,
code base. That helps me to assess
gotcha.
your strengths and how you
And
are
you
able
just
to
get a
analyze
sense
it.
from the code base.
And I
Okay.
get that from you, because how you structure it helps. Then the
What
next thing we
if
do,
what if the project what if the project is a private project that you can't be given access to the code base?
usually they would always have something that they can show me.
Okay.
Usually, I usually always would want that there's something that they can show me. I mean, if they
Okay.
have NDA agreements with somebody else, well, the fact that you have an NDA is a plus because it then means that you have a client that you are working with.
Okay.
So there's also that angle. But if you have someone who doesn't have anything with anyone, the alternative will be based on a conversation, and I can assess your technical ability, because it's also possible. But sometimes we are wrong. We put the person,
Okay.
we take the person if we're comfortable enough on the other aspects that are non-technical, and then we put you on a probation.
Yeah.
So if in 3 months you are able to exhibit certain skill sets, and with working with you, we can now tell whether, okay, this person should stay or this person should go. Our probationary period is usually about 3 months, where you
Okay.
get like a quarter or a fraction of your salary, and then afterwards you get bumped up. Well, that's the ideal scenario. Afterwards, you get bumped up to whatever it is that we've agreed, and that's what we do internally. And that's in only scenarios where we can't fully assess. Not that, let me know is what fully assess. I mean, we were not sure, a way to prove his technical ability, because some people can talk a big game, and some people
Correct.
can flow in a good vision with you and throw all the nuances that you think you need to hear or see
Correct. Correct. So
before
there's always a,
you
a
get
three
convinced.
month
Yes,
window
yes, but there's a 3 month window to actually prove, because you won't just start paying somebody 300,000 or 400,000 from day one. No, you
right.
make sure that the person in question deserves it before you then, if not, then you put
Right.
them on the level you think that they're okay.
Interesting.
Femi, how do
Femi,
you
you
guys do this?
there?
Yeah. Mm.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes,
you.
yes, yes.
So, did you get the question, or you want me to come again?
I got the question, but please repeat it again.
Okay, so it was more about sharing what your playbook is, the processes you go take your potential recruits through before you decide this is the one for me.
Yes. Okay, fantastic.
And also the tools you use. Sorry.
Okay, great. So usually we have as over the years, we've sort of honed the actual process for getting new developers on board. So whether it is Android, whether it is web, whether it is what version of web, is it PHP? I mean, what language? Is it PHP? Is it Java? Is it Python? Whatever language it is, right? And
Right.
or it's design. What we sort of do is we have standardized tests that we give to every
Okay.
single person, whether senior or junior, right? Not that is an engineer who will be involved with the
Okay.
code. And it's the output is what is different amongst them. So an intern or a junior developer, not intern, a junior developer, it would be to build the product,
Okay.
right? Using any framework of his choice,
Okay.
right? Or tool that he normally uses,
Okay.
right? For a mid-level to a senior developer is to talk about how he would solve it, and if we feel like we need to see his actual code, then we'll say, you know what, go and build it, let's see, right? And
Right.
project, or if it's somebody, a senior developer, he would then be, okay, how do you deal with this sort of
Hello, you there? Femi, you there?
questions? And
Okay.
it's not so much about actual code, it's much more about his.
Hello, Femi. We lost you again, Femi.
Hello.
Hey, Femi.
Hello. Yes,
Yeah,
I
we
can
can hear
hear
you. We can hear you now. Okay.
you. I said that the key thing we're looking for is the thought process.
Yeah.
The thought process is so critical because it protects or sort of ensures you are actually thinking enough about the problem before you start
Right.
writing, before you start designing database, before you start designing architecture. We need to show that you are able to settle down and think through the details that you see and come up with the best possible solution that it cannot be easily criticized. That's sort of.
Got you. Got you.
So I've seen people who have spent 5, 6, 7 years in active development coming up with solutions that are worse than. Let me rephrase that. I've seen guys who have spent just a year or two in development
Yeah.
coming up with by far better results. Those tests, those who have spent much
Okay.
longer. So I don't many different things, but just things we look out for. So we have standardized tests that we give,
Yeah. So
regardless.
that specific scenario you painted just now, can you give an example of what you would typically, dish out that you've seen this from? Maybe an
Fantastic.
example question or something.
Fantastic. So our standardized test we give out, which you're allowed to
Yeah.
submit at any time you're ready. There's no time limit. Take a month,
Okay.
take 2 months, take 3 months.
Okay.
Tell you then, we would still want you in 3 months. We didn't want you because we had a project on hand. We had to do it right now. Probably
Okay.
wanted it because we felt we had a set of skills that would be valuable to us.
Right.
So it would be, for example, with web, to design a business directory.
Okay.
Searchable, an admin, a single admin, not different. A single admin can log in, create a business, assign it to different categories, targets easily searchable.
All of
Um,
that.
if you want the job, there are guys that have finished it in a day. It's not really complicated, and they're not focused on how it looks. I think that's
Yeah,
something that takes away.
but on the average, how many hours does that kind of thing would take someone?
Uh, 6 hours maybe.
Okay. Okay.
As in, several people have finished it in a day.
Okay.
In a day, just say, okay, I'll be back on Monday, and then on Saturday I get the source code in my email. I'm like, okay, I
Okay.
test it.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah, that has happened a month.
Commitment.
Commitment, and once that happens, you've established that look, you have the skills, and you're really interested in actually getting this job
Right.
or joining this team. So you're interested. The level of
Right.
interest is really high.
Right.
And once we mentioned to any of these people that we're not interested in how it looks,
Mm-hmm.
it takes away a lot of the sense of we need to look nice. Is should I add a new button here? There's all of that is gone.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah.
Their daily jobs, those don't necessarily need to be part of their task and stuff like that.
Correct.
So now I was mentioning I've seen guys do it better. Younger people, not younger. I mean younger in active development, do it better. Would be you ask someone that okay, I want the business to be. It should be possible for a business to belong to multiple categories,
Right.
right? And then what you get are database structures like a single table
Mm-hmm.
for the businesses, and that same table you now have category underscore 1, category
Yeah.
underscore 2, category underscore 3. No, as the name of the column.
As the name of the column on businesses.
Yes.
Okay.
So not tell you what you have is a column called category underscore 1, another category column called category underscore 2, another column called category underscore 3. So he then inserted IDs for the different categories the business belong to into that.
Those columns without normalization.
Yeah. So I've seen all sorts. I mean,
You've seen
really
that from like people that say they've been developing for 4 or 5 years?
Yes, I have.
Interesting. I don't know what to say to that, but it's interesting.
That's come across very often, but it's just really rough that it's if I saw that in a junior developer, I would not even think a second time. I say, okay, fine, he doesn't know normalization. He will learn it. He will learn it.
Gotcha. So I have one more question before we start taking questions from the audience. And then we start looking at, all our conversation has been from the employer perspective. But we should also look at things from, these people that you've identified, how do you keep them? How do you make them happy, Or like what kind of experience should developers should be looking for? And the question that I wanted to ask, just when, oh God, I need to remember. You know what? If I remember, we'll come back. Let me quickly see. I think we have a couple of questions online there. So someone asked about coders in Nigeria. Some not knowing how to structure. I think that's for you, Chuka.
Okay.
What did you mean?
Okay. So what I was talking about earlier was that not what I didn't mean not knowing how to structure their code. I mean structured learning. That's what I meant. Structured learning. So you can learn in an unstructured manner, right? By using tutorials here and there that just show you basics or give you an insight to what it is that you want to learn. For example, let's say it was React.js, right? And the difference between this and how you normally would learn is you would probably I've seen a ton of developers who rarely go to the official documentation or official manual. They always try to look for video tutorials or somebody else.
When you can easily, like the documentation is right there.
It's right there, right? And I've seen this a lot of times. I'm not saying that there aren't developers who don't go to the documentation. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying what I have experienced so far is most times when people want to pick up learning, they always look for video tutorials or all that. Even written articles or written blog articles that does a quick dive into how to build an application using the tool. I think that should come afterwards. You should go and learn the basics. That's what I mean by structured learning. That's exactly what I mean. So go to where the formal knowledge is. Go in React's case, go to the React manual page or API reference page or documentation page. If they have books and they're touting those books, try and buy the books. If somebody else who works for the Facebook company that worked on the React project wrote a book, buy it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Let me tell you an interesting something interesting related to, you talked about going online and searching for how someone else has done instead of looking at the documentation. And a similar situation is, you're working on something, you see an error, there's a stack trace. Instead of you trying to figure out exactly where the problem is happening from, you decide to copy the error and paste it in Google, when the solution is right there in front of you. Yeah, I was a victim of that too, but I realized, like, you just have to pay attention.
Oh yeah, you only get better. I'll give you another example.
Yeah.
There's someone, I will not mention names, but there was someone who
Yeah.
used to work with us. Brilliant chap, very
Yeah.
talented. You could tell when he came to visual design, he's probably one of the best people I've seen. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen. It's probably, I'll put him in one of my top 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was new at Angular code.
Okay, at the time,
right?
yeah.
At the time, and there was a project that we're going to do, and he has his own way and his own style of learning,
Right.
But he wrote the first bit of code or worked on the first project, and when I was doing reviews and I had to make changes later on, it was a nightmare. So I said, you know what? You cannot push one more commit or one more nothing until you read this book. And I gave him that book, and he was better off for it.
Interesting.
His coding ability with that language and his coding style and his, it automatically improved and it changed. And at the time, I don't know what his mindset might have been, saying, okay, Mr. Chuka is forcing me to do this thing. Because I said I don't want to see any commit until that has been done. I don't know, but right now, I mean, we had a conversation about this later on, maybe like a year later or 2 years later. I mean, he's not with us now. He's not with Delivery Science anymore. He's moved on. But, and I asked him about it then, and he said, oh, yeah, that helped him. And that is a good example of what I mean by getting the structured knowledge versus learning it the unstructured way.
Right. Femi, I remember the question I was going to ask you. So your team, you guys work, I don't know how to classify you, enterprise or but your team is, you're not a Conga, you're not a principal. Oh, sorry, I said principal, but, like, I'm talking about companies that are out there in the face of people, that can leverage on their visibility on attracting talents. So I'm curious, how do you manage that aspect? How do you convince? How do you get people to indicate interest in you? How do you convince them that what you're working on is going to be big? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't know if that the question makes any sense, though.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. So, if I'm wrong, forgive me. So I'm about to answer. So my answer, like I said, if I'm wrong, my answer is forgive me. So because of my involvement in some activities that gets me talking with or interacting with or conversing with developers or speaking at events, right? I think a lot of people identify one or two things that they would like to be like or learn or achieve, right? And then the little projects you mentioned generally that we've done somehow filters down to people. And thirdly, and most importantly, actually, the guys who currently are members of the team talk about their work in terms of, wait, we're able to do this. Do you know that we powered this? Right? And I think that sort of starts an interest in people that, hey, I don't mind working for these people. You understand? So, a lot of the people who work for us, who work with us, who are part of Finite years, came in via referrals or friendships or from an event I went to or an event I spoke at or from an event they spoke at.
I see what you mean.
So we don't, I think we've carefully grown in terms of number. We haven't just shop our numbers. We organically have grown in terms of team size. And that's how we've been doing it.
Okay.
General or personal interaction.
I see what you mean.
Or every out there and say, hey, you guys have a role for us. think there's an email address we have out there. Join the INITS page. Every other day we get people asking me, can I join you guys? And we sort of like have interactions. Those are very interested in, and take it from there.
Right, that totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. Chuka, what's you guys' strategy in delivering this?
Sorry, just repeat the question one more time. Sorry.
So, you guys are a small team. You're not an entirely public-facing organization that can leverage on your visibility to attract talent. How do you attract talent?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, so far so good. I'll be honest. We haven't put in as much effort into attracting talent. It's just of late that we started doing, let's just say the past 6 months to a year. Okay. Before then, how we attracted talent was just word of mouth. People who worked with us before, who'd left, had moved on, and then somebody else who's probably looking for work, or they've worked with us or interned with us, and then they love the experience. That's the learning experience, and then they'll just go back and then they spread it out, and then we get more people. We are always getting requests. We're always getting CVs, right?
Right.
That is one way that that was unscripted.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, but of late, what we've started to do is, we started doing events where we share knowledge. I started earlier on. We started earlier on. Femi, we did the first Google developer group. Was the first one, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, yes.
What year was this?
Femi would know. I'm not sure.
It was 2009, if I'm not wrong.
2009. Yeah.
That was like 2009.
Oh my God. What? I must say, tracking you, but more history.
Yeah.
Chuka has been my boss. I started out working under Chuka.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. I didn't get that. What did you say?
I started out working under Chuka.
Wow.
You really have to say that, Femi. Yeah.
Chuka.
Yes.
A lot of us has relationships with you, one way or the other. and the first time I met Femi was at Descasio back then. It was like, Femi, God, literally. Yeah, and I was super amazed that I kept in touch with you, and you were one of the people that I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I remember back then it was 2013, early 2013. When I met and you talked about your model, you were the CTO, your wife was the CEO. I was like, interesting. Like what do you guys talk about at home? We need to fire that guy. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so I was talking about sourcing talent. So I said of late we've been doing I've started to give a bit more of my time. I've been wanting to give more of my time. Larry already has everybody who has a strong suit or strong strength. We want to, of late, we try to start a blog, try to push our articles, try to organize events where we give information out, because giving information out and talking about what you're doing and where you're doing it at the level you're doing it inspire other people to now actually go do it.
And please, if you guys have anything you want to organize, reach out to us. This is why Follow Up exists. Our primary goal is creating a platform for knowledge exchange. People that have things they want to talk about. We have the audience. We have over 1,000 members registered already across West Africa generally, including Kenya too. So it's a platform. GDG too. Hopefully, sometimes I'll reach out to Femi and see what we can do. We're also looking at a possibility of organizing a proper conference. We're going to leverage on you guys' experiences. Maybe sometime next year, invite people all around the world, all around Africa, and then showcase what generally that we have to offer. In the community. So I think it's going to be big. It's a huge platform that we have created here. And please, if there's something that you feel we can do together, we really, really want such partnerships, please. I just thought to put that out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the questions that I'm trying to. I know Femi needs to run soon, So I'm trying to go back to the questions and see what else we can quickly put on. So someone talked about scaling a database and having a master DB serving thousands of devices every second. I'm imagining an IoT system setup of some sorts. I'm just going to read out like instead of trying to process it. And
Yeah.
So this greatly affect the DB connection as when the two, that is the app and the data server, runs concurrently and the app suffers, hanging and being non-accessible but shutting down the data server, the app works fine. When you shut down the data server, the app works fine. What does the app use? How do you handle the scale of your DB to receive as much requests? Maybe a cron job that runs an app that does not offer. That does not. I don't know if you understand what.
Yeah, I think so. Fem, do you want to take it or should I take it?
No, I think you should take it first, and maybe I'll also speak from my own place of experience.
Okay.
Okay. So from scaling data connection. Now, even though I don't have as much context into what the person who asked the question is talking about, but I can a bit of light. First of all, it depends on the kind of data store that you're using or the database you're using. If you're using a NoSQL database, like say MongoDB or one of the other likes, or you're using a relational database server like MySQL or MSSQL or Postgres SQL. This is the first thing I think I should advise you to do. First of all, separate your concerns. Make sure that your data layer and your business logic layer don't live on the same infrastructure, hardware infrastructure. Try and separate it. You might not be doing a full microservice-oriented architecture or service-oriented architecture, but at least make sure that you try to separate your data layer from your business layer. That's number one. That's the first step into solving it. The second issue is try to make sure that your data layer is set up in a replicated form. So use a database that can have multiple, we call it sharding, that can have multiple shards. All right. Okay. So if you have, right now, if you just have one data node, then you've got that problem. But then if you now have like 4 or 5 different data nodes, then all of them, the data is sharded, and you make sure that you structure your data in such a way that the shard key routes to the particular database that needs to read and write from. So even if thousands of connections are coming, your data layer would know how to route the request and serve it in the same, in the equal amount of time. I mean, there's just maybe one more layer. There are many techniques you can use, but there's probably one more thing you can also do, which is now have replicas. So not only do you have shards, you also have replicas. And then you can now decide that a certain segment of those replicas are read replicas. Right. So i.e., you don't write to the same database you are reading from. So you have a certain set of data shards that you write to, and then you have a certain set of replica sets that you write to, and you have a certain set of replica sets that you read from. Replica sets are basically clones of themselves. You understand? So it is sharding and replication, and then picking which you want to read from and write to. I think that's high level how I'd probably solve your problem.
Yeah, I'll add to that before Femi gives the final lessons. Also, like what Chuka said is something that you definitely want to have at the top on your mind, and when considering scaling. So I'm going to speak from the experience at Printivo. So Printivo has had a very small team. In fact, for a long time, I was the only one doing everything in terms of business and implementation. So what I did was, based on my knowledge, based on experience with working with people like you, I already know that is where we need to be. So what I did was, I started small, implemented the small things. So I'm guessing this is also what this person is is experiencing. Probably has installed MySQL and the app and everything on a single instance. And he's doing, he's managing his MySQL instance. If I'm assuming it's MySQL or something, if it has to do with connections like that. What he needs to be doing is, like you said, have those things at the back of your mind. But if you can't do that, then you are bogged with the stress or the need to manage your instance yourself. So, for example, you're having connection issues. there is a small cap to the number of connections you can have to your MySQL instance at a particular point in time. So, for example, what we offer is not doesn't need a lot of user engagement, so we have a limited number of connections open at any particular point in time. But the same database instance, I set up something called Sendy. It's an alternative to SendGrid or MailChimp or something. It's a cheaper approach to, if you want to set up marketing emails. But whenever they send out marketing emails, oh my God, the database literally goes down. And, this is one of the experiences when you already start, eating a lot of traffic and things like that. So you should consider checking MySQL documentation on how to, this is speaking towards Masood Abiola's question, how to increase the manage the connection. I don't know if this will work for you, but whatever database you're using, if it's MySQL, there will be settings or configurations to change your connection, number of connections that you can have at the same time. There's also a common problem with MySQL where if there are a lot of failed requests from a database, the database starts dropping, connections from that particular instance or wherever the connection request is coming from. So you should check those things, and maybe you'll be able to solve your problem. If you can't, you can reach out to any of us. Femi Taiwo, that's on Twitter. I hope that's fine, Femi and Chuka.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can reach out to any of us. Femi is at DF Taiwo on Twitter. Chuka is at Chuka Ofili on Twitter. I missed that.
It's Chuka Ofili.
Oh, Chuka Ofili. I thought it was Chuks. Oh, sorry. So it's Chuka Ofili and I'm your Megzo. But yeah, final blessings, Femi.
Okay, fantastic. So you guys have already mentioned like the things that he needs to do. The only thing I want to add on is if you're looking for a temporary quick fix, just move it all to Google App Engine, right?
Oh, okay, interesting.
But, automatically scale traffic, right? So it will cost you, but we scale based on the traffic. That's the first. What I think might be
the quickest fix. Yes.
The more correct solution. Even if you're not moving to App Engine, if you're moving to App Engine, right? It doesn't matter where you're moving it to.
Yeah. What's the average cost of using such a service on Google App Engine?
It depends on your traffic. So if you're doing, say, if you're doing maybe 5,000 requests per minute,
that is a lot,
right? You probably be spending $2,000 or $3,000 a month.
What? Okay.
Yes,
that is a lot.
Yeah, but 5,000 requests per minute is quite a lot, though.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot. That's 300,000 per per hour or something like that. Okay, so going back to what you do, right, is to actually break up different parts of your application. So if it's a part that takes computers, let that just save it. Don't do all the processing right there. And use a queuing system like RabbitMQ or some other or AMQ, whatever message system you want to use. Use one, and then let's a background job, a video process, a cron, process the information, and then send the feedback back to the user. So that way you're not dropping off connections at any point in time. This will take longer. You're not dropping off connections at all. You understand? And the other thing was, and I forgot what the other thing was. Oh well, I think that's just those are just two key things. I think you should separate it and then use a queuing system.
Okay. So you can separate your tasks from the main process, but then in fact, like depending on how well you set up your system, you can still have a near to real time experience for your users with queuing your jobs. Interesting. So someone else asked the question, was like, I'm really curious about your thoughts about job descriptions where developers aren't given specialized roles. As much as one is meant to have a broad set of skills, how does one specialize and grow? Anyone can go for that first.
So, when giving out job descriptions, when I'm trying to come up with job descriptions, I try to be as non-specific as possible, unless the role really requires that level of specialization. The truth is this: any intelligent person who is able to apply himself easily to anything can acquire the skills required to build an application the way it should be done, or develop a project the way it should be done, as long as what two things are present. There's somebody else with more experience willing to guide him
Hmm.
and available to guide him.
Hmm.
Right? So when coming up with job descriptions, unless the role is highly specific, like we want someone with at least 2 years of experience building C# and using these specific tools or this specific framework because of the environment it's going to be put in.
Right.
Most of the time, the JD should be as non-specific on the details of skills, actual skills or frameworks.
Interesting.
That's my own. That's my own opinion. Because
Well, this is also assuming you put out a lot of JDs out there.
okay, so I put out a JD. Okay, last time I put out a JD was in November, right? And that was because
that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Project needed specific people with specific skills.
Right.
Right, and that's why. But otherwise, it's always been I just boss people that hey, I saw what you did. Hey, I saw your GitHub repo. I see this. So that's how I am. And if you must put a JD out there, please. And this is to my fellow
employers,
company runners.
Yeah.
Please always put the compensation package. I mean, put the salary range, right? The work. It doesn't. It's harder to get people to come out of the woodwork, and there are lots of developers that are fantastic who will not put in an application or show any interest if they feel you're being vague or you're being dodgy.
Good point. That makes a lot of sense.
That is very, very true. That is very true. Okay.
Interesting.
Well, my own take on the JD. I mean, Femi has said a good chunk of it. What I would just add to that is this. I've seen a trend that is beginning to happen now because I like to talk based on where we are at or where we are at right now. Excuse me, in technology and how things are progressing. I've seen this trend of late. You are either a back-end developer, a front-end developer, or a mobile developer. Usually, somehow, some way, you fall into one of those buckets. Categories. Yes. Yeah. So, if you have a job that doesn't have a job description, all right, that's where I mean, there's no, maybe in the company you don't really have a specialized roles. You don't have a specialized like the person asked. I tend to see this three, a BE developer, a front-end developer, and that's a back-end developer, front-end developer, and a mobile developer.
Right.
Now, with or without DevOps skills is irrelevant. The fact is you fall into one of these three. Then when you start to cross, become cross-functional, which is you become a BE plus a front-end, or mobile developer plus back-end, or mobile developer plus front-end, then you'll be somewhat close to what we call a full-stack developer. Now, how do you specialize? The best answer there would be you've already been coding or you just started coding, right? Try your hand at each of the three. And then whichever, and as bluntly as I can put it, whichever of them gives you the most joy, the one that you are not crying when you are actually doing it, right? Then you could consider specializing it, because the truth is, most times in the early days, most of us picked up languages because we felt it was either cool or that's the best tool we could use at that point in time, right? But before we settled in programming, there were a whole very number of IT related functionality one could do. I mean, I've tried my hands at animation. I've tried my hands at video editing. I've tried my hands at music with technology. I've tried my hands at many things. But I noticed consistently the thing that gave me joy the most was programming, developing. Doesn't even matter the language, just programming. Writing structured code and then seeing a result. And then I've seen that my result is now solving somebody else's problem. That gave me joy. So therefore, in the same light, try your hands at back end development, front end development, and your front end development is not just front end development; it's front end engineering. The things have changed now. It's no longer about building interfaces; it's about building rich, user experiences. And if you, whichever one of the three, or is mobile development targeted at Android, iOS, Windows, whichever platform it is, whichever one of the three you feel you either excel at the most or you enjoy the most, then think about specializing. And there's nothing wrong with having more than one role. You can start out with one, the one you like the most, and then later on add others. There's no rule book that says you must be a back-end developer for the rest of your life.
Interesting.
Those are my thoughts. Yeah.
Femi, the other time when you were talking about remuneration being added to the JD, from your experience, I know we sort of have subjective ways of defining intermediate to high level to junior developers, but what would you consider as good remunerations? Because in the industry right now, there's a lot of conversation around developers not being paid well, and a lot of good developers looking out of the country to get jobs, remote jobs, even if it means earning 30K grand from in UK in pounds, they will go for it. But in your opinion, or let me say, what's your opinion about that, and what do you consider, or what do you think is reasonable for employers to put out there?
Okay, that's a minefield you put me on.
So if you don't want to talk about some things, that's fine. I understand.
I'll just speak from a place of truth. Okay. So first thing is earlier on this year, we did at the end of last year in person and first week of this year, we did an analysis if how we did last year, right, as a company, right. One of the things we noticed was that we actually made a loss. Not that the account was in red, right? It was that we should have based on our costs.
There's a lot of noise there. Hello?
Femi, there's a lot of background noise.
We should have than we actually clearly.
Hello, Femi.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I said
no, it's okay.
We saw was that we potentially made a loss in quotes, right? Because we still kept our costs at where they were and tried to still just do stuff at the regular cost that we had associated. And what it did for us was our cost of operations had gone up, but our revenue did not, our receivable did not go up at a proportional value.
Right.
And one thing this year, one thing we established we needed to pay our guys more. So we could not compete with the likes of those with much more funding or much more access to investments or funds or money in general. Right? So there are a couple of things that we focused on instead. Right? Still, I'll talk about what we did. What we focused on was how do we make the lives of our guys better?
It's difficult hearing you, Femi. Sorry. Hello, Femi.
Is it better now? Hello?
Yeah, it's like on and off.
Must be my internet. So I said, what sort of benefits can you provide to make the lives of team members better? What sort of benefits can you provide? Right. So the usual, yes, and this internet and all that. Those ones are no longer
perks,
extras, requirements.
Yeah.
Right. So things like accommodation can become mandatory. right? So everyone needs to have accommodation. Everyone needs to get access to accommodation that is close by of their choice within the area. They should have access to getting loans to buy cars if that's what they want to do, right? Now that said, so one of the things we also did was a bit of restructuring in terms of what we paid out. So we would say, for example, the entry level was previously was set at how much was it?
Was
Set
set at
at
what?
100. At
Okay.
100.
Okay.
It was set at 100. And what we did was double that, right? Our senior guys take them much higher. Now the guys that are earning even higher than I am,
Hmm.
earning 350, 400, right?
Mhm.
So it's dependent on how much value for each company is how much value you place on.
Hello? Hello, Femi. Oh, we lost Femi. Chuka.
Yep.
Yeah, we lost Femi
Still here.
just now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do you want to quickly, take a stab at that? Like, in terms of remuneration, how do you define that? What do you think?
Okay, I
Wow,
think
hello.
Femi's back. Yeah.
No, Femi's back.
No,
Yep.
yeah, I think my internet is going bonkers.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
Yes, so sorry. So,
No, it's okay.
so I would, truth be told, I wouldn't say there's a standard,
Yeah,
right? It honestly depends on how much value you place on your team members and how much value
right.
you're getting back from the project that you're closing.
Okay.
So pay them fair. That's what I would say. Pay them fair.
Yeah, so your strategy there is you cannot afford what the deep pocket guys pay developers, but you're trying to create value in other areas.
Exactly. And
Interesting.
give and truth is this, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times, people are not actually working for the pay,
Hmm.
right? It's much more than that. It's what is it that you, as the call the manager, team member, call it leader,
Hmm.
what is it that you believe in? You believe
Hmm.
in. What is it that they want out of the relationship, right? Is if
Hmm.
it's cash, okay, let's know that it is cash, and let's know that that is how big of the matter. And let us be clear. If it's to have something to believe in, if it's to be able to be involved in a team that is providing value,
Hmm.
if it's to gain experience in a particular direction, if it's to be able to work on really huge mission critical projects, if it's to become a what's the word a part owner of the company, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's always, as in most of the time, it's much more about the money. But the truth is this: there are many more guys out there who will probably be willing to pay more, or you know what? Maybe smarter to go for things like Elance, Freelance, Gigstar,
Hmm.
or CodeMate, or any of those other platforms out there
Yeah.
who will earn you more money than if you held a day job.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you need to find out what it is that your people believe in,
Hmm.
or what it is you want people to believe in.
And do you just sense that, or do you ask them point blank?
No, you have to ask. You have
Okay.
to, I mean, so there are two parts to that. You have to ask, and then from conversations, you will know what
Right.
is it that they are interested in. That's the honest truth.
Okay.
What private projects are they working on their own? Not which ones have been commissioned by somebody else, but what private projects are they thinking about of doing? Why are
Hmm.
they thinking about doing it? What is it that they hope to achieve with doing it? You
Hmm.
get that sort of thing. What's their pain
Yeah.
point that they're trying to resolve with technology? Find out what it is.
Hmm.
Join them if you can. Yes, and join them, help them with thinking through their ideas. Don't hijack it. Like,
Hmm.
just, yeah.
I see what you mean. Interesting. Yeah. Chuka,
Yeah.
um, you wanted to add something.
No. Well, I mean, Femi has pretty much said everything. He's pretty much
Okay.
said everything. I don't think there's much to add really. Like he said, as an employer, what value are you bringing to the table? The
Right.
value, because remuneration is one thing,
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, remuneration is one thing, but if the person doesn't feel that they can easily be aligned. And alignment reasons for developers vary. You
Yeah.
know, um, they vary from employer to employer, and they also vary from developer to developer because perspectives are different. If beyond whatever it is that you're paying them, there's nothing else that will keep them aligned with you or keep them there, then most chances they won't take it. Like he said, most people don't take jobs just primarily because of money,
Yeah.
because everybody will get paid regardless. So it's not really always about the money. What else are you bringing to the table? And if I mean, like in our own company, there's something that we do, which is we allow people a certain amount of time to work on. I mean, we don't have any issues with them working on private projects.
Right.
We don't have that issue. If you want to work on I mean, there are even cases where we've even invested our own time, energy, effort, even resources to helping groom some of our own internal developers private projects, which have now become
Gotcha.
main projects and the rest of them. So I mean, there's also those kinds of incentives,
Investment. Yeah. Incentive. Yeah.
investments to make. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not, to be honest, it's not just about money. So Femi is absolutely right, and, and,
Yeah,
and that's what I have to.
I get what you mean. So Femi has to run now. I actually promised him this was going to be just 1 hour,
Yeah.
but we've really pushed him beyond the agreed time. Femi, thank you so much for being part of this. Me and Chuka, we're just going to take the last couple of questions on the thread, and yeah, we'll call it a day. But I understand you have to go now. And again, thank you so much for being part of this, Femi. And I'm sure everybody listening right now really appreciates the tips and the knowledge you've shared. I don't know if
Thanks.
you have
Thanks.
anything to say.
No, just thanks a lot, Yomi, for having me. I'm happy to have been on this call with you, and of course with my boss Chuka. Conversation. All right.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks a lot, Femi. I'll definitely be in touch.
All right then.
Yeah,
Thank
bye
you.
now. Yeah. Hey Chuka, so there's one everybody's thanking him on the group chat. Yeah, it's been a great conversation, really. There is one question from Joseph Emmanuel asking how you handle clients always in the East to get delivery. They're not interested in scalability. Just to quickly answer, like not to spend too much time on that, and
Yeah.
tell me if you disagree with me on this. I feel there is no straight way to handle this. One needs to be able to, depending on the kind of clients you're interacting with, if it's an enterprise client, you need to be able to either communicate directly to them the implication of the project and be able to communicate with them the actual timeline and what it will take to get this done, or you have to scale down your requirements in order to meet up with the timeline they want and communicate this clearly to them that, hey guys, if you want to be able to have a chatting application ready by tomorrow, you will not be able to receive notifications. Only messages will be sent when they hit send, something like that. So I think it's more of a social skill than a hard fast rule in terms of dealing with clients. Do you have anything different,
No,
Chuka?
you pretty much on the point. It's I think, you see, the thing is, clients will always be clients. Number one, clients will always want something done yesterday, not today or tomorrow. Yesterday. So going into any project meeting, or I mean, because these obviously, this question has to, it relates directly to projects, not a product that you're building. Because the product that you're building, you're on your own timeline, and you're on your own development roadmap, so you can just try to meet it that way. But when you're dealing with clients who always want stuff done like yesterday, um,
Yep.
a lot of how that project is managed, or a lot of how expectations are managed, is well dependent, very very dependent on how the project was originally started.
Yep.
Because if from the beginning, based on high level overview of what needs to be done, and you scale uh, based on different phases, then it's easy to manage, right? But
Right.
if there's this whole on managed approach to it, that's when you will find, more often than not, that we fall into this situation where there's a fire brigade approach to it. Client wants something done ASAP,
Yeah.
and it always happens. But if you're already in that situation, I recommend getting, if you can't afford a project manager to come in between, interfacing between you and the client, then you need to take time out. And then when client wants things done, you spec it out, scope it, send it, and say, okay, it's going to take this amount of time. They would always kick back. You reach a compromise, and then that compromise is what both of you can live with. Versus when, because if you've already fallen into the trap of the client is one dictating when things are going to be ready, not much can be done. I advise that at that point in time, you stop and have a conversation. No, I'm being serious. Stop and have a conversation with your client. Because the client cannot dictate how much time it is going to take for you or your company or your team to get something done.
Yeah.
You understand?
Who actually owns the skill set?
Yeah, it's a conversation. And if you feel you cannot do it in the amount of time, then say it. There is no shame in it. There is nothing wrong. And if you've got knee-deep, chances that your client will drop you because you can't get it done are very, very. I've not heard that happen. Well, in my experience, the client will drop you if you don't get something done. If you promised to get it done, if you promise to get something done in 2 days, if the client says, "I want this thing done in 2 days," and you know it will take you 5 days, and you promise the client it to be done in 2 days, and you get it done in 2 days, he'll be happy.
Yeah.
But if you get it done in 5 days, after you've promised to get it in 2 days, he has the right to drop you. So it's what did you commit to? It's the commitment on your own end. If you didn't commit, the client usually would not. If you didn't commit and you said, okay, this is when I can get it ready, it's different from if you say you get it ready on so day, and then that day comes and it's not ready.
And then there's no story.
Yes, so I've not seen when clients would dictate to you when it should be ready, and then at the end of the day, you can't get it ready. At the end of the day, and you agreed, and you can now get it ready. They will usually, drop you because you agreed. But that's when it's a client company relationship. When it's a employee-employer relationship, now that it can also happen in that way. I think also, you should also, like I said, state when you think it'll be ready, or think when you'll be able to come through with it, and not with. I know your technical prowess and your technical skill set will come into play on how long it will take you to do something, but then it will be within reason between you and your employer, and should have that conversation or discuss from time to time. If your client says he wants something done in 30 minutes when you know it will take you an hour, speak up. Speak up. The worst case scenario, the compromise that will be reached is, okay, take the 30 minutes, go and try and attempt to do it first. And if you don't reach in 30 minutes, it won't be that you didn't say it earlier. These are my thoughts.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think this is all we have right now. It's been 1 hour 34 minutes. It's been awesome. I didn't think this was going to be this long, because one of the feedback we've gotten from the audience has been our videos are long, but I'm sure this specific one, people would spend the time rewatching and pick the knowledge they can pick from this. Thanks a lot, Chuka. I really appreciate, on behalf of Folloop, all the organizers, everyone, Folloop members, we really thank you for taking the time out, to be part of this and share your knowledge with us. Yeah, and we hope other people out there will reach out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what what you're confident about, or exactly the area in technology you're confident about. If you think you want to talk about it, and you think there's an audience out there, or you think you want to talk about the technology, even if it's new, please feel free to reach out to any of us on Folloop. The handle is Folloop Nigeria on Twitter. My handle is Yomexo. Find us. The website is folloop.ng. New events will be put up on folloop.ng. So that's pretty much all I have right now. Chuka, any closing remarks in quotes?
Well, no, not exactly. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to be here. And I hope to see more of this and more of you guys out there.
Yeah, awesome. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Thanks a lot. You guys, thanks. Cheers.
Bye.